Today, I'm excited to have Marta Hewson here with me from Hamilton, Ontario, all the way up there in Canada. Marta has been a professional photographer for 15 years and started her portrait and commercial photography business in Hamilton in 2000. With a background to both fashion and commercial photography, she loves working with people and coming up with creative ideas for new projects. So, hello, Marta. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Hi, Nigel. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's really quite an honor.
Today, we're going to be talking about dealing with clients, a topic that I don't think we've really talked about yet here on this podcast, so I'm looking forward to diving into that. But before we do, let's give people a little bit of background. What was that first spark of inspiration for you that got you interested in becoming a professional photographer?
Well, I always loved art when I was a teenager, and I used to look through black and white photo magazines or fashion magazines, and that always inspired me so much to be able to create what I saw, like to say, I wish I could do that instead of just looking at it and thinking, how nice it is. I always wanted to be the one to do that, to be able to create it. And I think looking through magazines and going to art galleries was probably the first thing that got me inspired to say, wow, I really want to do this.
And did it turn out to be as easy as you expected?
No.
It really isn't, is it?
No. At all.
So winding the clock forward to today, you obviously have a successful business that you're running. And what do you see as being the top personality traits for successful portrait photographers today?
You definitely have to love working with people and working in a team environment. You have to enjoy people's company because some people don't. You definitely have to be a people person. You have to be friendly and happy. Like nobody wants to work with, a curmudgeon or someone who's depressed. It really makes a difference on how you present yourself and how much you actually like being with people and learning about them and working with them. I'd say that's probably the biggest one. You also have to have good communication skills. You have to be able to put yourself in your client's shoes and relate to them when they have concerns and stuff, because sometimes their concerns might seem a little odd to you, but you just have to put yourself in their shoes and think, okay, if this was me, how would I want this to be handled?
So a great personality and empathy are two of the top
For sure.
things. I definitely agree with that. So really the Grinch probably is not going to make a great portrait photographer, right?
Exactly.
It's funny that you should mention the personality thing, because I ask this question to quite a few of the photographers that come on here, and many times they say that same thing. Personality is so important. And I remember we had quite a well-known photographer here in my town who for many years was known as the go-to guy. Everybody took their kids to him. He was very skilled at what he did, but man, did he ever get grumpy as he got older. And when I had my studio, somebody come in one day and she said, "Do you photograph kids?" And I said, yeah, I love working with kids. Why? And she says, well, I went to that guy up the street and he just yelled at my grandkids. And so we decided we didn't want to have him do the photographs anymore.
Yeah.
When I spoke to him one time, he really was very angry and grumpy. And he was mad at all the digital photographers muscling in on his business. This was going back to sort of 2005, 2006. Problem was that he let that show in his interactions with his clients.
Yeah, and who wants to deal with that, right?
Exactly. So this episode is all about dealing with clients, not poor clients having to deal with photographers. That's a whole different topic altogether. But how would you describe your ideal client?
My ideal client is someone who places value on photography and what I have to offer. Like someone who places value on my photography as well. Not necessarily just to say, because I'm a little bit of a high-end studio. I wouldn't say very high-end, but I'm not, maybe in the middle. So I wouldn't say that necessarily it has anything to do with how much money they have, but it has more to do with what they place value on. So I want clients to come to me because they love what I do and they like how I do it, and they want me and not just someone who needs a photograph and who's concerned with the price of an 8x10 or is just looking for, anyone to take their pictures. So really it's all about how important it is to them to have me be their photographer.
And this idea of value is an interesting concept, because a lot of new photographers, when I talk to them about establishing value in the mind of their client, they immediately start to think in terms of, okay, well, there's an 8x10, and so the value of that is maybe $20, $100, whatever, it happens to be in their mind, where really the true value is altogether different, right?
For sure.
What would you say say are the qualities that people think about when they attribute value to what you do?
Let's say somebody calls and asks, what's the price of your 8x10s? I pretty much know right away that they're putting their value in the wrong things when they call. If someone calls me because they've heard about me or they've seen my work and they're excited about what they see and they want my art on their walls, generally that's the type of person that is not going to be so concerned with the price, or, even if they are, that's not a problem. Like, people are concerned with price all the time, but they have to be able to really care about what I do for it to make a difference and for us to be able to work well together.
Is there also a sentimental value, an emotional value in the photography that isn't really very tangible and isn't really directly related to you personally, but it's what the photographs bring to them?
Sure, that's my whole goal, is to create something for them, like specifically for them, that's going to mean something forever, like that they can have for generations, obviously for their kids. And most of the products I offer are all things that last a long time. I don't want it to be just a digital file that will one day vanish, because, as we all know, all digital files will eventually. I want them to have something tangible that they can have forever and they could share. Like, it's going to be so important to all my clients, and they take pictures of their kids, and then 10, 20 years from now, they look back on that. That's where the value really comes in, is later on in life. For me, anyways, that's what I find important. Like, everybody wants pictures of their parents when their parents were young or little. And they used to take a lot of pictures back then, probably not enough. But now a lot of people don't even want to be in photographs. They're shy, they're embarrassed. And one of the things I always say to them is, it's not just about you, it's about your kids. This will be important to them 10, 20 years from now.
Indeed. So how do your clients typically find you?
Mostly word of mouth. I get a lot of repeat clients. I get a lot of referrals from my regular clients. I do a lot of networking as well. So I meet a lot of people. Like, I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and I go to as many events as I can. I meet a lot of people that way. But I'd say mostly would be word of mouth, I think.
Now, the topic for our call today, the main topic, is client relationship management, dealing with clients, all that kind of thing. And when I first started thinking about this topic and the kind of questions that I thought we could try and answer, it seemed a little bit fuzzy at first. But then as I kind of delved into it, I started to see that this is actually quite a big area and there's a lot to it. So let's start out with at least a definition so that we can get everybody on the same page. What do we really mean by that phrase, client relationship management?
To me, it's basically being able to relate to your clients properly and having them relate to you properly. So it's a two-way street, but it's definitely important for you to be able to relate to them in a way that they're comfortable. So for me, in life and in business and in everything, I always really try to follow the golden rule. Like, that's my commandment, treat others as you would expect to be treated. But for business, I think I try and even take it a step further and wow them and go above and beyond what they expect of a good relationship or a good customer service, and just surprise them, I think, once in a while. I think that would be, making sure that relationship is mutual and that they really enjoy working with me and that their kids love me. And if, they bring parents to the shoot, that the parents love me. Like, I want to make sure that everybody who's involved is happy with the whole experience, not just a photo shoot, but the whole experience from start to finish.
When we look at large companies, let's take a department store like Macy's or something like that. For them, the phrase client relationship management has more to do with things like making sure that they have your name and address and phone number and email and all that kind of thing stored in their database so that they can send you a postcard in the mail and make sure they send you the right special offers and all that kind of thing. But when it comes to a service-based business like photography that is much more personal and has a much lower volume, obviously, than a huge store. Do you think that it becomes something more than that, in the sense that you're almost blurring the line between customer and friend?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things. Like, I try and make friends with all my clients. To me, that's so important. Like, I want them to see me as a friend, which can get kind of tough sometimes because then you have to charge them. And sometimes you almost feel bad because now they're your friend. So now you feel like maybe you should give a deal, but you have to know where to draw the line in that aspect. You have to respect them all the time. Like, they are your clients. They are the ones paying you, and they're there because they like the experience they're getting with you. And that's why they keep coming back. And you just got to watch out for things like respect their wishes. Like, always ask for permission before posting their photos online. I never post anything without asking permission. Like, just respect who they are. And, if you kind of know their personality when they come into the studio, make sure you have the right type of music playing. Make sure you have the type of munchies or cookies that they like if they have an allergy. Which, these are things you find out as you get to know people. And then just make sure you have the appropriate foods and just respect them as people and respect them as clients and go above and beyond.
What about things like collecting information about them, such as their birthdays and making sure that you keep things like anniversaries and all that kind of thing? I mean, do you go to that level of detail?
Not as much as I should. I do for some. If they're really good clients and they're clients that come back regularly, then yes, I do that. And then I always send them a Christmas gift. I probably don't do it with as many clients as I should, but definitely the ones that are regulars. And I have clients that have come back 10 times for photos at least, without me having to, send them invitations or something. They have such a great time. I've done their wedding. I did all their maternity, all their newborns, all their family portraits. And before you know it, it's like 10 sessions we've had in a few years. So with those clients, you really get to know them. So yeah, if they have a birthday, it's in my calendar. I definitely, send them stuff and just sometimes randomly even send them stuff throughout the year without it being an occasion. Doesn't have to be a gift, but just a nice hello or something.
These things make a huge difference. I got brownies in the mail the other day from the organizer of a group that I've just joined, actually to help me with the podcasting. They didn't have to do that. Yeah. But I got a nice card and some brownies, and I like brownies. So if anyone out there wants to send me brownies, by all means, do that. I'll always take brownies. But this is all great stuff, keeping in touch with clients, making sure that you've got information about them to help you maintain those personal relationships. But is there any kind of a border here between customer/friend/ being stalked or getting creepy with it, because I can imagine that if we take this too far, that it could start to become somewhat uncomfortable.
You got to be careful because with a lot of my clients, I'm become their friends on social media. So I comment on their photos and I, watch what's going on sometimes just so I can keep in touch that way. So yeah, you got to be sure that it's a mutual relationship, because if they're doing it back to you as well, if they're commenting on your posts and getting involved in your life, then it's fine. It's a mutual relationship. They enjoy the connection. If you keep, stalking them and there's no response ever, then maybe you're going too far.
Yeah, you're being a little bit too over-enthusiastic about it, perhaps. But, these types of things feed into the word-of-mouth part of the marketing that you described earlier on, because you keep your clients not just happy, but you keep them connected to you in a very human, very meaningful way. And so it's only then, I would imagine, natural for them to want to talk about you to their friends, right?
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, clearly they do, because, you're getting a lot of referral business, so that's a good thing. But what about the experience that you give people when you're working with them? How does that feed into the client relationship type stuff?
For sure. Every interaction I have with my client, I try to make it an amazing experience. Even from the first phone call, answering all their questions is a given, obviously, but taking it beyond that and seeing if they have any concerns right off the bat. And every time we connect or every time there's an interaction, I try and make it as pleasant as possible and as easy as possible for them and get to know them really well and really relate to them, because that's what is going to make them like you too, right? Is if you can relate. And a lot of clients have concerns when they're photographing, they're like, oh, I don't like this side of my face, or I don't like this pose, or, they don't always like themselves. And I've noticed that some people are mad about, some photographers get upset when they're like that. So just let me shoot what I want. But you got to understand, you've really got to put yourself in their shoes. And if they do have those concerns, they have them for a reason, and you have to respect that. And you have to try and make them as comfortable as possible in spite of these situations that they might be uncomfortable with. And that's what I noticed I get a lot from clients too, is they feel very comfortable when I'm photographing them. And every touch point should make them feel that comfortable, whether they're coming coming in for a viewing or whether, it's after the shoot and I'm sending them thank you cards, they should be excited and surprised that they're getting the treatment they're getting.
Before all of this really starts to happen, the seed, if you like, that you plant before you ever start to really have proper dealings with clients is setting their expectations about what's going to happen, how things are going to work, what can they expect to get from you. Plus, of course, I know that, you're going to do some things that will be, little pleasant surprises, hopefully no nasty surprises, but plenty of pleasant surprises. How do you manage and set the expectations in your clients?
Well, I want them to know everything ahead of time. From the first phone call, like as soon as we start, I tell them everything. I don't want any surprises on price or on how anything works. I give them as much information as I can, and I have PDFs prepared that I email to clients saying what to expect, what my prices are for products. And then once they book with me, I have like another PDF that I send with more details, help them with what to wear and what all my prices, not all my prices, but my basic prices, so that they get an idea of how much they're going to be spending, give them an idea of what they can order so that they don't come into the session in shock or, not knowing what they want. And I make sure that I cover all that ahead of time. And even from how long the session takes, how long it takes from the time we shoot to the time they view their images, and then how long it takes to get their products. Like all that is spelled out for them ahead of time throughout the process. And I don't just book someone, get them in and shoot. I try and talk to them, at least 4 or 5 times before the shoot, especially if it's on the phone, I'd prefer that. But if it's email, it's going to be even longer, just because I really want to get that connection and all that information out to them so that, like you said, there's no surprises.
This is an area where we have to be really careful, because you can have very happy clients that are really happy right up to a certain point. And then there can be just one little thing that happens that doesn't even necessarily have to be bad in itself, but if it goes against what they're expecting and it creates even the smallest bit of disappointment, it can really damage that relationship.
For sure. And that's all they're going to be thinking about the whole time.
I know from experience, because it's happened to me, and afterwards I thought, oh boy, I wonder whose fault that was. And it's probably not the client. I'm sure it's probably my fault for not making sure that they understood this. And I think very often I see this happening around all that awkward stuff like policies and terms and conditions and copyright and all this kind of thing, stuff that photographers really don't like talking about.
Not at all.
So let's talk a little bit about the other side of some of these client relationships. We've talked about some of the good things, but there's another side to this coin where when things don't go quite according to plan, and maybe we have a client who gets so mad that they start running around social media trying to create a social media hailstorm, if you like, and starts leaving bad reviews and spreading negative word of mouth and all that kind of thing. That can be very upsetting for a photographer. And certainly the first time it happens, and probably for a lot of times after that too. But what can we do about that kind of thing? How should we deal with it?
I've never openly known of a client who talked negatively about me on social media. So knock on wood. But not that I know of, unless they didn't tag me on it. And obviously I'm not aware. I did really screw up an order once with a client, but this was before social media. So I don't know. So that's a good thing. But it was like near the beginning, and I had the daughter come in and do pictures of her sister and her brother, and it was a surprise for mom. And then mom was going to come in and pick the pictures. So she came in to pick the pictures, and I totally forgot she was coming, and I didn't know where the pictures were. So she waited for an hour while I scrounged around and looked for images, and then she left. And that was the worst experience ever. But this was at the beginning, so I didn't really know what I was doing yet, but I knew right then and there, wow, this is not good. And she probably did talk bad about me. Thank God there was no Facebook at the time, so she couldn't plaster it all over, but I'm sure all her friends were aware. So obviously I called her a few times to apologize once I found the pictures, because I pretty much found them as soon as she left, of course. So I called her to apologize. I sent her an apology card. It was near Christmas, so I sent her Christmas cards with one of my favorite photos from their session that they could give out to their friends. So I sent them like a stack of them to hand out with an apology card. I called her and apologized. I sent her, I don't remember what it was now, but various gifts or discounts for any photos she wanted in the future from the session. And I offered to give her stuff for free. So she was pretty much still mad at me. I know, I could tell, but she did write me back and say thank you for the gesture. It was very nice. So I think I appeased it that way. If she was talking about me, hopefully after that, she probably stopped, because she did think it was very nice that I was, that I felt the way I did. So, and that was the last time I think that I really made a client that angry.
In our society today, we're kind of conditioned, I think, to treat the occasions where we do something wrong as being really bad. If we must be really bad people. Yeah. If we do something wrong, there's usually severe repercussions. And if we do something that, we make a mistake, which we all do, we all make mistakes with stuff. And it almost feels like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. I've just really screwed up and these people are going to be really mad at me. What happens is that I've found is that the first thing to do is to get on the phone, talk to the client and say, you know what, I am so sorry. I screwed up.
For sure. And that's exactly what I told my client.
My bad. I'm really sorry. I screwed up. I totally understand your frustration with this situation, because I know that if it was me, I would be feeling just the same as you are. And here's what I'm going to do to put it right. And on the few occasions where I've had to do that, I found that not only has that client gone, wow, I am so pleased that you acknowledge the problem. Don't worry about it. It's really fine. It's not that big a deal. Not only that, but then they turn into raving fans.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. It's like they're even more happy than the rest of the people that you never screwed up with. So, but by the way, I'm not advocating that you screw up everything with everybody just to get raving fans. That's not a strategy that I would advise.
But it's true, because they realize that you're human, you make a mistake, but you caught it and you're more concerned with having them be happy. And I think that's the important part, is that even though you screwed up, and everybody screws up, but you're doing something to make it right, and they know that you're concerned about them. I think that makes a huge difference.
It shows that you care, because they probably had plenty of dealings with companies like, dare we mention Comcast or AT&T or some of those other big corporations where they have faceless cyborgs, in their help departments who really aren't interested in helping anybody. I'm sure that we've all had occasions where we've had to call the helpline and we've literally been screaming into the phone. So it's refreshing for people. Again, it comes down to expectations. Oftentimes they expect a confrontation and they think, oh gosh, now I've got to fight with this photographer to get this fixed. And the photographer just goes, you know what, I messed up. I'm really sorry. I know how you feel. I'm going to put it right. And they say, what? Really? Oh, awesome. Thank you. There's another side to this too that I am seeing, sadly, more and more. And that is, I'm noticing a lot of photographers on Facebook ranting about their clients. I feel that this is really quite unfortunate, because I don't think Facebook is really the right platform. I don't think there's any platform really other than screaming into a pillow, really, where we should be ranting about our own clients.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've noticed?
It makes me cringe every time I see it. You can't talk bad about the people that are keeping you alive. These people, these clients are your business. Without them, you're nothing. You have nothing if you don't have clients. So you should really be, and I know sometimes clients can be unreasonable, just like photographers can be unreasonable. It goes both ways. But, if that happens, then maybe you're not connecting, or you're not being able to relate to them properly, or they can't relate to you, and then they're not your client. You have to move on and find somebody else. But you should definitely not be posting anything negative on social media. Even if it's not about clients, you shouldn't be posting anything negative anyways, because negativity breeds negativity, and you're just going down a downward spiral. I think everything you post out there should be positive, especially when you're dealing with business, but even in life, you shouldn't be posting your negativity anywhere.
One of the latest trends that I see is photographers taking screenshots of their smartphones of text message conversations that they've had with a client who's having a hard time with them. I won't necessarily say they're being a difficult client, but there's some kind of conflict there. And so there's a text message conversation that goes back and forth between the photographer and the client, and then they take a snapshot of that and they're posting it in various groups on social media. Sometimes they're not even bothering to grey out the contact, the name of the person. And I don't know, I'm probably just old-fashioned, but to me that seems so unprofessional.
It's an invasion of privacy too. They're texting you thinking that they're talking to you, And if you go and post that, now you've just invaded well, first of all, you've invaded their privacy, and now they don't trust you anymore at all. So, and if a client has that much of a problem with you, it's probably your fault. They came to you because they thought you might be a good fit. And probably in that case, I would say the photographer messed it up.
People say, oh, well, it's okay because I only posted it into a closed Facebook group just for photographers and nobody else can see what we're talking about and it's a place to vent and that kind of thing. Well, I got some news for you folks. I have seen at least one occasion where somebody has posted what they thought was a confidential discussion in a group, and then another photographer who had some beef with them took that and posted it publicly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's not good at all.
Yes, we need help to resolve these things.
That's different. Asking for help is different. And if you're asking for help, definitely do it in a private group, but ranting and complaining about your client is very different than asking for help and how to deal with a situation. It's very different.
A lot of photographers see their clients as one-hit wonders in the sense that they get the client, they book them, they photograph them, deliver the photographs, and then move on to the next and forget all about the person they just served. How important is that relationship to you after you've made the sale?
Well, it's so important. It's everything, really, because like I said, I have clients that have come back like 10 times or more. And that's ultimately what I want. For me, I'm not very good at marketing, but I'm very good at dealing with people. So for me, keeping a client is easy. Once I have a client, it's getting new clients that's harder for me. So it's very important for them to want to come back every time and for me to have that experience with them throughout their lives and to be able to even follow their kids and themselves as their family grows. To me, that's so important, because I said they're like friends, right? So it's almost like I become part of the family in a certain way, not obviously a close friend. I mean, some of them do become close friends, but even the ones that don't, it's still so interesting to me to be part of the growth of their lives and their family and their kids. So yeah, to me, that's so important. It's more important for me to photograph clients that I already have than to get new ones that I don't know yet. I already know what they like. I already know their style. They know my procedures. They know what to expect. So the photo shoot and the whole process works so much easier when we already know each other. We already get along. You know what I mean? I don't have to go through the whole getting to introduce them to the whole process all over again.
We've talked a lot about strategies here, top level kind of ideas about maintaining and building and nurturing relationships and that kind of thing. Let's talk just a little bit about some of the tactics, tools and that kind of thing. What kind of tools do you employ in your business to keep track of all this stuff and to almost remind you if and when you need to do certain things?
I do use a studio management software to keep track of birthdays, weddings, all that stuff. I put everything in my calendar. And like I said, I keep in touch with them often if I can. So for sure, every Christmas, if they're repeat clients or if they're clients that I've had in the past that were good clients or potential clients, they're getting something for Christmas. So at least once or twice a year, I'm keeping in touch. But yeah, definitely, I do use a studio management software to keep me on track.
I think a lot of people use things just a simple spreadsheet or a Word document or some kind of database type thing. But, whatever you do, have some kind of a system in place that will allow you to keep some of this information organized and easy to get to. Because I can tell you from experience, it's very frustrating when you think to yourself, oh, I must get in touch with this person, and you've got 3,000 emails in your inbox, and it's in there somewhere. Yeah, no, it is, and it takes you 10 minutes or 15 minutes to find the darn thing. Yeah. I know they had 3 kids, and what was the middle kid's name? And it's hard. You don't want to mess that up.
No, I definitely keep track of all that. I also have, as well as the studio management software, I also have a filing cabinet. And for every job I have, or for every client, I have a file folder, and all their information is in there as well, like the kids' names, where they live, their birthdays, as much information as I can. So if I know that something's coming up, I pull out the file folder. I remind myself of, if they have a lot of kids and I haven't seen them in a while, what their names are, who they are, all that stuff before I contact them. Even if I'm going to make a phone call to them for something, I go through their file read everything first, just so it's fresh in my memory. Because like sometimes I'll photograph like mother and daughters or something, and I never really got to meet the husband, so I might not remember his name. So I got to go through and make sure, I asked for that information. So now I know. So when I call her, I could say, oh, how's, John? Or it doesn't seem like I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're talking about. But everything I do and everything has to be genuine. Like it can't be fake, and it can't be, if I'm not interested in something, I find something else to be interested in about them. Like I make sure that it's sincere. Like I don't like to put on a show, or I have to mean it for it to be important, right?
So one last question, and this is always my favorite. So if you could steal a time machine and go back to the year 2000 or before and go find the younger Marta Hewson, what would you say if you could tap her on the shoulder and say, hey, I've got some advice for you?
That list could be endless. But I think the main thing is I would tell myself that photography is a business first and art second. When I first got into photography, I wanted nothing to do with business. I just wanted to create and do art, and quickly realized that wasn't working. It was a hard lesson for me, and I fought that notion for years. Like I fought it as hard as I could because I didn't want to do business. And I think that really, really slowed me down. Like it took me a while to get going in a business because of that. But now I finally come to the realization that that is definitely more important than the art. And if you're good at the business and you can, sustain a business, then you have time and then you're motivated to do the artistic side. And that's the other thing too, is somewhere in the middle, when I went from, being all art to being business, somewhere in the middle, I got lost and kind of got stuck in a rut of doing what I thought I should be doing for photography, what I thought my clients wanted. And I was kind of trapped in like a boring stage where I was like, oh, this is it. There's nothing new. So when I realized that, I said, oh, I got to do something different. So I brought back the art aspect of it and said, I'm going to shoot what I want to shoot. Obviously, I still had to keep my clients, but I said, I'm going to shoot what I want to shoot and how I want to shoot it. And I started putting that stuff on my website and doing what I wanted, not what I saw, because I saw a lot of stuff on the internet and I was like, oh, this is what I should be doing. And I realized, no, that's what they're doing. I want to do what I want to do. And once I made that decision, I'm way happier. And I think my clients actually enjoy it more. And I think they come back to me also because it's different than what everybody else is doing, because it's me. It's what I want to do. So I went from being all art to business and just doing what I thought I should do to now having the happy medium of, it's still my art. It's still what I want to do, but business is first, and business is probably the most important thing.
So people, you've got to get excited about business. I know that you got into this because you wanted to be an accountant and you wanted to be a marketer and you wanted to be a salesperson. So, dive in and get excited about business. It's just a fact of life as a professional photographer, is that it's 80% business and marketing and 20% photography. That's just the reality of it. But at the same time, you do have to, I think, stay true to yourself as far as the art goes.
That is so important. And that's why a lot of photographers, I think, get stuck in ruts, because they're true to why they got in photography in the first place. Like most of us get in because of the art, because we're excited about photographing. And then you get stuck in a rut of business and doing what your clients want, and you don't move out of that. And I think it's so important to stay true to yourself. So ever since I came to that realization, I've been making sure that even though I get to put my own style in how I shoot my clients, I make sure that I shoot a lot of creatives all the time, like at least 2-3 a month, if I can, just to keep me excited about photography. And then I can even put that style into my clients' work.
Well, Marta, this has been fantastic. I have really enjoyed this chat. And
thank you.
Thank you so much for being generous with your time and your expertise and all this amazing insights into dealing with clients, or I don't even really like that phrase, now that I come to think of it at the end of this chat. Dealing with clients sounds not too much like dealing with recalcitrant children. We don't mean that at all. It's interacting and nurturing our clients, I think, is probably more how we say. But thank you so much. This has been been wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I had a great time for sure. And I hope your listeners find the information useful, and I hope they can use it in their business. But yeah, I had a great time. This is awesome.
And of course, the biggest takeaway should be send us brownies. Send Marta some brownies and send me some brownies, and we'll all be happy.
Awesome.
Well, thanks again, Marta. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Nigel.